This is the second of 2 video lectures on process groups. We've learned so far about the use of the here and now. I'm next going to move us into the importance of transparency and transference in process groups. Let's begin with how, as a field, we're moving more towards a 2-person psychology, meaning we view the counselor or therapist's own emotional response to the client as valuable information that needs to be shared with the client. So instead of being a blank screen and somewhat detached from the therapeutic process, the counselor is an integral part of that in 2-person psychology. And I think that framework will help us in this discussion about transparency. Okay, let's talk about self-disclosure then as a counselor. Doing this with clients is supportive, it's normalizing, it's human. It helps clients feel like you're not some kind of detached, very professional person who's going to judge them. When we share personal information with clients, and I recommend here horizontal disclosure rather than vertical disclosure, meaning we share information about our experience in the room rather than from our personal history. We do so for the client's benefit. That should be the guiding principle by which we disclose information. Okay? The timing matters of disclosures. We don't share anxieties and flaws too early, because if we do, it diminishes hope and morale in the client, because they'll feel like, we're perhaps not as prepared as we should be for group leadership. We also take feedback seriously, though, from clients, though with the caveat of using consensual validation first. So asking the group, do others share this opinion? And then listening and hearing that. And regardless of whether it's truly accurate, we always validate the client giving us that feedback, because again, we're modeling the importance of members giving feedback to each other, regardless of whether it's on target or not. Okay? Let's move into transference next. We talked about transparency as a group leader. In terms of transference, we are very sensitive to how the client's past relational templates are often projected onto others. That can include you as the counselor and leader. Here's a good example that Yalam provides. He is a male leader in a group of female incest survivors, and in that experience has what's known as role inversion, whereby the group basically rejects the leader, rejects everything that Yalam says. And so because of that, Yalam experiences dread, he doesn't look forward to going to the group. He views himself as a victim of bullying by other group members and lacking in skill. And Yalam came to this understanding that, my goodness, that's what the group members feel as survivors of incest and abuse. And so, in other words, oftentimes your own response as a leader is the gateway to empathy, to understanding the experiences of other clients. Here are a couple of indications of feelings toward the leader by group members that are very common in group situations, particularly process groups. Group members will sit away from the leader. There will be discussions and dreams involving authority figures that will come up in group. There's scapegoating, whereby one member of the group is attacked by other group members. And there's excessive and ongoing defiance toward the leader. Now note here that scapegoating occurs if basically the leader has not normalized, not allowed there to be conflict with themselves. And what happens instead is that the group will attack other members instead of the leader, okay, which is an ineffective use of group, and it will stymie the group. I'll mention here too that members tend to romanticize the leader's power and authority, and that romanticization can cause helplessness and dependence on the leader. Because all progress in the group will be attributed to you, the group will wait for you to respond, very similar in a way to being, in my experience, being a course instructor and having a class be very dependent on you for learning. And basically viewing that if you don't provide a lecture that day, or if you're absent and there's someone who comes in, like a guest speaker, that the class will feel like they haven't learned anything, because they associate learning outcomes with the instructor skill, which may not always be appropriate, and certainly in groups is not appropriate, because remember, the power resides with the members. Okay? So what do we do then as a group leader in terms of managing transference and working through it? Well, I think it's important to validate transference, to see when it occurs, and to bring it up for discussion, especially in process groups, and to have other members comment on it. And that closes out our discussion of part 2 on process groups.